The participants are Major General P.K. Goswami, Deputy Director General, United Service Institution of India, and Sanjay Jha, journalist.
Major General, the USI, United Service Institution of India, is hosting Forum 2023, which started yesterday, and it's about international humanitarian law and peacekeeping. Can you please tell us what is this conference about and what it means for us as an Indian?
UN peacekeeping operations, India's contribution goes back to 1948, and we have been the largest contributor for the UN peacekeeping, that is the maintaining peace in the world. So basically, we go back to our old philosophy of Vasudeva Kutumbakam. So keeping that aspect in mind, USI of India, which is a 153 years old organization, we always make an endeavor to highlight India's contribution to the UN peacekeeping. In this, I'd like to highlight one aspect, that is in September 2000, we raised organizations with the help of Ministry of Defense, Ministry of External Affairs, and the Indian Army, that is called Center for UN Peacekeeping. So it's a training center where Indian peacekeepers who are going for deployment under the UN flag, they are trained. Similarly, training is imparted to the friendly foreign countries also. So in this endeavor of USI to highlight India's contribution to UN peacekeeping, we of late started with an annual event. We tried to pitch it at the international level so that India's contribution is further highlighted. Last year, we did the UN Forum, and that was called Challenges Annual Forum 2022. That was on the theme of Future of Peace Operations. Similarly, this year, we are now holding the seminar or this annual UN Forum on the theme of international humanitarian law and peacekeeping. I'd just like to highlight why this theme at this time. You see the prevailing geopolitical churning, which is today world is witnessing, is causing the growing political tension and the armed conflict. And these are leading to the humanitarian crisis. Whether you talk of Ukraine, whether you talk of West Asia, whether you talk of various intractable situations which are there in Africa. So the current situation reinforces the essence and the relevance of international humanitarian law in preserving our common humanity. In this backdrop, the today's topic of our UN Forum is highly contemporary in nature.
Major General, you very importantly raised the issue of international humanitarian law. And this event which you are organizing is being organized in collaboration with International Committee of the Red Cross and the Center for UN Peacekeeping Operations. So you are going to discuss the critical need for adherence to the international humanitarian law principles in today's complex peacekeeping scenarios. We have seen lately, the conflict in many parts of the world where this aspect of the peacekeeping is not really looked after very well. How important is following the international humanitarian law in the current situation?
To preserve the common humanity, I will say, it is a mandatory that we follow these rules and regulations. So if you see the last 1 month, the various statements which are originating from the UN Secretary General, he is time and again reminding the complete members of the UN peacekeeping that international humanitarian law has to be followed. I will quote one statement by Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, on 31st October 23. While giving a statement on a situation in Gaza, he said, international humanitarian law establishes clear rules that cannot be ignored. It is not a la carte menu, but cannot be applied separately. All the parties must abide by including the principle of distinction, proportionality, and precaution. Same, I will draw your attention to the G20 New Delhi Leaders Declaration on 9th September 23, which called for all states to uphold the principles of international humanitarian law. So this highlights that there is a dearth of followers for the international humanitarian law. So that's how, to preserve the humanity, the members have to contribute in some form or other to bring attention or highlight the importance of this international humanitarian law, which all member countries have already accepted in the past. So that's how the importance in the present scenario, day by day, it is getting highlighted.
Major General, there is a one important aspect of UN peacekeeping force. The India's contribution in the peacekeeping missions in the past and in present, we have crises going on in many parts of the world still. How important India is contributing for the international peace through the United Nations?
India's first mission, which has gone outside, deployed after independence, it was in 1950 at South Korea. At that time, India had taken a stance that it will not deploy the troops. However, on the humanitarian basis, we sent a medical unit, a famous 60 parafill ambulance was sent there. And very large human life was saved by them. And in that, it was not only the Korean, Chinese, British, US, all international communities, whosoever was involved, was looked after by this thing. And every year in the month of June and July, in South Korea, they celebrate the deployment of 60 parafill regiment. They have created a lot of statues of the commanding officer of that time. The contribution started at that time. And today we have reached a stage where, if I'm not mistaken, out of 71 or 72 total missions, we have contributed almost 49 or 50 missions we have contributed the troops. That's how we have been going out of the way to save the humanity, agreeing to deploy the peacekeeping missions in various areas where the conflicts had come up and a resolution was under the UN flag. So India's contribution is highlighted at every place. Everybody accepts India's contribution. Particularly, I will narrate an instance. I was deployed in Angola in 80s when there was a problem at that end. People look towards Indian and they get assured that the Indians have come to our country or in our area, we are safe enough. So this is the type of faith the people have on the Indian community. I will correlate. India is a very diverse country. With that diverse nature of people, we know each other's pain. We understand human factor and each other's pain so easily that when we go and deploy it and we carry that characteristics with us. That is the one reason Indian troops or Indian community or Indian resources which are available to the UN, once it is deployed, people have a confidence that now they are in the safer hand.
General, we saw how wonderful our forces did a great job in the South Sudan recently. One thing also in this event which you're organizing, what is the role of women in peacekeeping operations? Because they play a very critical role, whenever they have been deployed. What do you see the role of women in peacekeeping force?
Like all across the world, even in India, presently we find or we analyze that women are the active agents of peace in any armed conflict. Yet their role as key players and change agents of peace have been largely unrecognized. So it is essential to recognize and support the active participation of women in the peace and security, since their contribution brings diverse perspective, innovative approaches, and commitment to build a more just and peaceful world. Only a mere presence of a woman can make a difference in any resolution of this thing. If you are some percentage of the peacekeepers are women in uniform, when they go on ground, they can change the perception, they can help them out, because girls and women will not open to the men for the various problems, personal problem or like sexual abuses by the rebel groups in a war-torn country. So the importance of women in the peacekeeping has been realized, and the UN has already put a target for all member countries that much percentage of women has to be in any peace mission. We have almost achieved the target for the deployment of the staff officers or the military observers. In the police deployment, again, we are slowly closing to our target area. However, in the fighting troops, the number of women which is required, India has to make more efforts to achieve the target. So that is what women in peace and security aspect is there, and it's important. And that's why we realize it today, and we are trying to achieve whatever possible to have a gender equality in the social development and in the social justice.
You spoke about the important role of the women in the peacekeeping forces. Nowadays, General, we see and we hear a lot about electronic warfare. We're hearing about AI and robotics war and all that. How much technology can be leveraged in enhancing peacekeeping operations?
You are very correct. Actually, if you see any new conflict which comes up, which presents a new ways in which the belligerents or the civilians start using the new technology, because everybody is experimenting on something or other. And the new development and the rapid adoption of the digital technology gives rise to various humanitarian, legal, and ethical issues connected with that. That's how UN has already strategized Secretary General strategy on the new technology on data. So they have set a stage on this, and their focus is on the four goals. That is, drive innovation, maximize the potential of current and new technology, understand threats, and ensure responsible use. Now I will take a case of a small team deployed in the eastern part of Congo, which is a quite, I'll say, the infected by the various groups, fighting groups, which are there presently contesting the government as well as the UN. Now, if you have the drones, if you have the satellite communications, if you have a means to find out about their movement, like protection of civilian is a very important mandate which is given to the UN peacekeeping. Now, if you know their movement, you can move your troops to counter that. Otherwise, what will happen? When the incident takes place, then we react. By that time, they would have caused the damage, whatever they want to do it. Similarly, communication. In war-torn countries, whatever we may say, you may have a limited connectivity maybe there. So the technology is today available to connect everywhere, to pass information, share information, get the real-time data, monitoring of the rebel group communications, so that you get a basically early warning to react to that. Similarly, transmission of data, sharing of data, all those things is possible in the remote areas with the help of technology. So that efforts UN is making. However, today technology is keeping such a fast pace, and what percentage has come out in the world, around 42% of the young population is totally dependent or making full use of the social media technology and passing the information, which has given a rise to passing of disinformation or misinformation. Because in the war-torn countries, they may not have the accessibility to the daily news or international news or a TV. But everybody knows something is wrong is going on in their country. So whatever information they can gather, whether from the WhatsApp, whether on the Facebook, whether on the Twitter or any other means, they start believing that. And that can be exploited by the rebel group by giving the disinformation. That's how you find large number of UN camps, UN peacekeepers have been attacked, because you create that hype in the population and they react to that hype and they do the things what rebel groups is looking for. So we need technology.
General Goswami, it was very good to have you and explain the purpose of this meeting going on in New Delhi. And let's hope that the Delhi edition of Annual UN Forum 2023 on International Humanitarian Law and Peacekeeping brings a new dimension, and it shows the new path for adhering to international humanitarian law. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on UN Forum 2023, Navigating Challenges in Peacekeeping Through International Humanitarian Law. The participants were Major General P.K. Goswami, Deputy Director General, United Service Institution of India, and Sanjay Jha, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen to it on a mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may share your feedback about this program through email at airnsdtalks@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 9289 094044.